All right, so we're going to start, and I think I do that here.
SquareHammer.
What is up, SquareHammers? Let's see if this went through correctly. Got to just confirm with y'all. Hi, everybody. Let's see. Hey, good. So, welcome to the live stream. We're going to talk about the two most recent articles that Games Workshop has released for the old world. The first one is the shooting phase, and the next one is the close combat chop you up phase. Before we get to that, I have Zach and Jonesy with me today. They are both very good players, and they have played in many of the tournaments that I have run in events, and I play them quite frequently. So, hey guys.
How's it going? What's up? What's up?
So first, let's just look at the new Tomb King model that released. I know most people have seen this already, but I just think it's a very pretty model. I love how it's like a Nile crocodile kind of thing, but it's obviously a dragon. So if I buy this model, I might clip the wings and use them on something else, and just have this as like a really cool crocodile mount. And Jones, you said you haven't even seen this yet, so well, what do you think?
I haven't seen it either.
You haven't seen it either? All right. Well, what do you both think? Any thoughts on this?
Where's it up? You sharing your screen?
Oh,
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, I thought y'all had it up, or you could see. Yeah, go to YouTube and just you could watch.
Oh, yeah.
You could watch
Yeah,
us do this. I can't believe y'all haven't seen this yet. Hold on. Let me put this in the chat.
I see it now.
You see it now? Okay. Yeah, it's awesome. It's very crocodile-like. They say it's a dragon. I don't know why they would have dragons in the desert, unless it's just magically combined into the form of a dragon based on all the extra bones, whatever. Chat, can y'all hear us? Want to make sure y'all can hear us okay? Hey, Max, can you hear me all right? Hear us all right. But that's the mount. They also released the cat. Everyone was freaking out about the cat. This little teeny bone cat. It's obviously because they were worshipped pretty highly back in Egyptian days. Then they also have a tomb prince on foot, and he has this massive flail. I don't know how that would how viable that would be in combat. It kind of reminds me of the Witch King, but this one has like 4 different ends on it. That's like a yes, Pat. It is not very aerodynamic. It's like you start to swing it, and if it's not perfectly aligned, it does start doing this and would hit you. But what do you think?
Peter was asking about your Nectros things, how that thing flew, or whatever it was over
That's
the weekend.
true. Those stone wings are able to like somehow give it enough propulsion to get off the ground. I don't know, but do y'all like it? What do you think of it? Be honest. 100% honesty. Go for it.
I mean, I think the dragon thing, crocodile thing looks pretty cool. Definitely different type of model than they ever made before.
Different.
Yeah, Tomb Kings is something that I've always liked seeing on the board. I've always seen them played at other tables, never actually played them on the board. So that's why I was very happy to watch your guys' game when you played against the Brats. It's an interesting model. It's a good take on it.
I love y'all's comments. It's an interesting model. Like it fits. Okay, so let's dive right into the shooting phase. What do they call this? Darken the skies with volleys of arrows, quarrelers, shots, bolts, balls, and screaming skulls. So it seems very akin to what it used to be. You declare your target, you roll a hit, you roll a wound, and you remove casualties. They did give you two things where it shows you actually what the weapons are, the range, the AP, stuff like that. It's interesting that they gave every single longbow AP 1. That's called Armor Bane 1. So even what is longbows? Like Bretonnian peasants on foot, they're going to be AP 1. It seems kind of interesting. But volley fire, I assume volley fire is the same way that it used to be, where your whole unit can shoot, but you're an additional -1, even if you're like 4 or 5 by 4, so you get 20 shots, but you're in an additional -1 penalty. It looks like catapults are only strength 4 and then strength 8 under the hull. I think even the Screaming Skull was 510 back in the day. I don't know what bombardment is. Cumbersome seems like it's a move or shoot because maybe they're
Hmm.
allow them to shoot. Yep. Actually no, it's different because cumbersome is there, but then it also says move or shoot. So I don't know what cumbersome could be.
First, it might be like no quick to fire. Like
Okay. Okay.
it could be like instead of it having quick to fire, it's like everybody can do the stand and shoot reaction
Hmm.
except cumbersome people.
Gotcha.
Be
And
like a switch on that.
bombardment is just like it's a 3-inch blast template. Multiple wounds D3 plus 1. So it's no longer D6 in the center. That's good. You can't just like one shot a monster. I'm sure some can. Maybe the Bretonian Trebuchet could be 510 and it's just D6.
I would think bombardment is kind of indirect fire. So you don't have to necessarily see your target to necessarily hit them as well.
That would be good. I like that. But then if you roll, even if you roll the direct hit, it still scatters the direction of the arrow. Is that right?
That's, yes, current Warhammer's Armies project indirect fire. That is correct.
Okay. Still the same old. I'm glad ballistic skill is back. That's great. Like the old ballistic skill. That makes me very happy.
Hmm.
I don't like. I enjoy 40k right now, but I do. I've always appreciated the compare my ballistic skill or later on weapon skill to your weapon skill to see what I hit on. Is this in WAP where if you're BS6, you hit on a 2, and then if you miss, you roll a 6?
No,
I like that. I don't know what's BS10 in this going to be in this edition, but you hit on a 2 and then on a
I
2.
thought about that because like the highest ballistic skill stuff that I could think of is like the Waystalker hero, who's like BS7 or something like that.
He's only
I
7.
think I think a
Yeah.
Lithanar back in 7th edition was BS10.
Really?
Yeah, like it was
Holy
like
cow.
he fired like a legitimate like single bolt basically, and he was BS10.
Okay. Oh, Inquisitor. I like that. Cumbersome could be you can move, but you can't march. That makes sense. I
Mm.
could see that. Uh, what'd you say in fantasy gaming? Is Armor Bane the same as AP? Yeah, I'd say it's the same as AP. So if you have Armor Bane 2, it's -2 to your armor save, even if you're Strength 3. So if you're Strength 5 with Armor Bane 2, then it's 4, 5, Armor Bane 2. So it's -4 to your armor save. I don't know what's going to be like that. Maybe the was it the Hellblaster? Possibly. Looks like wounding is still. I think in 8th edition you could always wound on 6s.
Yes,
Is that right? Okay.
that was one of the big things I was gonna point out was Strength 3 bows no longer can wound toughness 9 or greater creatures, which is probably fine because it's like what 5 tough. I think it's the chart was like 5 toughness higher. You can't wound. I was trying to think of some of the bigger stuff, like what has toughness 9 or 10 right now, besides like
Well, Steam Tank is only T6, right?
yeah, or maybe 7. But I mean, Vince's siege tower was like T10
Oh
for his
yeah,
chaos
yeah.
chaos doors. Like that was a thing.
Well,
Um,
almost all Tomb King monsters are at least older or were T8, so they could
oh,
still be
okay.
wounded by
Yeah.
Strength 3 with a
Mhm.
bow.
Yeah, but so like if you have a T8, which is fine, but
Sure.
you bubble up a Wissens or get a Wissens on it,
Mm-hmm.
it's no longer woundable. That's scary. Um,
Very.
but
You
I mean,
curious on War Machines? How
yeah,
they do War Machines?
They were T7, right? They used to be T7. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay.
yeah, just
Stanky.
from like a strength 3 shooting type army, like this seems like it's fine. You know,
Yeah.
like I'm sure people might be sweating about it, but I mean,
Yeah, it's okay.
it makes sense.
Yeah, Inquisitor, the Stank used to be 10. I think that was 6th and 7th edition, obviously when it was released, but it was T10, which was like gnarly.
No, that was
Yeah, it was.
right in 8th edition when it started. Right? Yeah, when 8th edition started, all War Machines got boosted to toughness 10. And then there was like this weird intermediary phase where the Stank was considered a War Machine, so it was toughness 10 with 10 wounds. So
Right.
it's pretty impressive.
What I'm gonna need to know is full disclosure, Wood Elf player here. Um, Poison. I guess Lisbon player would want to know this too. Poison. How is that going to interact with this? Because is it going to go with the, hey, you're just +1 to wound it, so now those sixes become fives, and if you couldn't wound them, it becomes a six, or is it just going to be auto wounds on the like old school poison?
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't think they've discussed poison yet,
Mhm,
but
mhm. That's
I,
gonna be something to keep an eye on for sure.
I don't know. I think obviously just auto wounding on sixes is probably better mathematically, um, but I'm cool with either or. It seems like in both of these articles they discuss things, but they don't go into full details. So there's still things left open for waiting for the full rule set. They've actually even
Hmm.
said that a couple times. Okay, so they say light armor. So there's light armor and heavy armor, which can be boosted by a shield, mount, and certain spells and magic items. They didn't say plate armor, so I assume that'll still be added. For some reason, they just didn't put it in there. I don't know why. Uh, and wounding still seems the same. You take a casualty, a panic check when necessary, remove models, no problem. Uh,
Good to hear the mount save coming back for some armies, right? Because like that kind of disappeared with the armies project, the +1 for just being
yeah.
on a thing.
Yep. Well, it says a barded mount.
Oh, it
So it
does.
doesn't say a
Okay.
mount. It
All
just says a
right.
barded
All
mount.
right.
I know. So it's probably gone. I'm sure they just got rid of it, and maybe they made because what in WAP there's light armor, medium, heavy. So heavy is actually 4 up in WAP. So they're making it a 5 up here. So I would assume our armor save is going to be weaker because if there's no mount option, then that means you're. Let's say they get full plate, which would be a 4. Then you're just going to have a barded mount and a shield. That means you won't have a 1 up if you're Empire Cavalry. It's pretty interesting.
You said medium was out of there. Medium was
Not
taken
listed.
out.
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's just light and heavy, which can be boosted by shield, mount, and certain spells. Blah blah blah. What else we got? Breath weapons still doing the same thing. Skirmish cav can fire and flee, which I'm really glad they added that because you couldn't do that in 8th edition. It was just stand and shoot, flee or hold. So I'm glad they took the WAP thing where you could fire and flee, and you should flee. So in WAP you flee 3d6, but if you fire and flee, you still shoot, but you only flee 2d6 away. Now this is only for fast cav.
That was a recent change too. It wasn't always like that. Like that was like one of the recent nerfs for it.
Uh,
Like fast guide, you could do the fire and flee and still get all your dice, and then like within the last like I don't know like 6 months or something like that, they
okay,
took it away, which is
probably.
good because fast cav were a little too strong.
They also changed overrun because overrun used to just be the full dice, and it made cavalry way too mobile. Like they're already even with the nerf, like they're still really freaking quick, as you and anyone who runs Pistoliers, Jonesy, will know. All right, do y'all have the articles up? Do one of you want to talk about the Fireball and Vortex?
Let me pull that up because I actually had a question. I didn't know if I was reading that wrong. Did Fireball have an AP or did it just not list it there? Let me scroll here.
Well, it says AP dash, so
Yeah, so that's why I was wondering. I was like, did they just like take out what the AP was for the article here, or is it just AP of nothing?
I think AP nothing, but it's strength 4, so strength 4 will still go through one of your armor. At least that's what it's
Yeah.
always done. I assume it'll do the same here.
Yeah, I'm just like looking at it like, why even put with an AP of dash if there's nothing? Just yeah, so just me reading into it, I was like, oh man, is this thing gonna have a little extra sauce there on it?
A little extra sauce.
Yeah, yeah. I was like, that scares me. Fireballs already scare me, so
Yeah. That's yes, you are flammable trees over here.
yeah, so like I'm already looking at it. But interesting to see the magic missile type magic being in the shooting phase. Like that's
Yes.
going to be obviously a learning curve. I'm sure there's going to be some. Oh wait, hold on, I forgot to cast my thing in the shooting phase. So
Yeah.
definitely gonna need to.
Everyone's got to be a little chill, a little lenient
Yeah.
the first couple games, And it says casting value 8+. So, do you generate dice at the start of the turn, and then you can only use those throughout the turn? Like
So I
that's
wanted to ask about how because I've never played any Sigmar, but like or 40k. So like how do the casters in those games generate their dice? Does like each caster get 2 dice to use and then
you talking about 40k?
And then Sigmar, just like how do those
Well, in
um
40K, magic is completely gone.
like no psychers or nothing like that
There
anymore?
are psychers and they have psychic attacks and stuff, but
Uh-huh.
it's kind of like a shooting attack. So it's like in
Mm.
older editions, if you had smite, which was very big, I think in seventh, eighth, and ninth, or at least eighth and ninth, where you would just do a psychic shooting attack. So now, if I have smite, I just rolled a hit like it's a regular shooting attack. It's not a here are my casting value and stuff like that. They got rid of all those types of things. But in eighth edition, like if I wanted to cast, I don't know some of the name of the spells, but I would just roll 2 dice at it. And then if I got the value, let's say if it was an 8, I would roll 2 dice, and if I got an 8, then it went off. That's all it was in like ninth
Okay.
edition. So,
Did you have
but
modifiers?
you could get modifiers. They were either like relics, or maybe your character just has +1 to cast this, or stuff like that. But Fireball on an 8 plus on 2 dice, that seems too difficult to do. So there has to be something else than just 2 dice and you get an 8, it goes off, in my opinion.
That
Because
seems pretty easy to me.
2 dice on an 8?
Yeah, it's just about a
Less.
little under average.
Yeah, but it used to be like a 5. It's like a 5 to cast in
But
older editions.
For 1d6.
so what I was
No,
what I was
you could roll 2 at it.
No, no, no. I'm saying like it goes off on a 5, but it was like 1d6 strength 4 hit. Like
That's true. That's true.
if I'm thinking about how they
That's
might
fair.
structure the phase is like you get what do you say 2 dice to throw at every spell that you have. So it's like every round you get to throw 2 dice at a fireball no matter what. So it's like about 50% of the time you're just going to get a fireball off.
That's not bad. But look at what's weird is that the vortex of chaos, I don't know if y'all see this, is
Mhm.
also an 8. And it says it remains in play, so usually you can dispel that later in the turn, or it just keeps going unless you don't. Place a small 3-inch blast template so that the center hole is within 15 inches of the caster. It's treated as dangerous terrain, so if you walk through it, I assume on ones you just die. The template moves d6 in a random direction every turn at the start of turn and subphase. Friend or foe. D6 plus 1 strength 3 hits, each with no AP. So it costs the same to get off.
Mhm.
It's not as deadly as the fireball, but it can just screw up your lines. But it's not that bad. Only strength 3 isn't a big deal.
Yeah, for some
think
reason I'm thinking you get to throw 2 dice at every spell you have.
Yeah, and
And it's
maybe
like you
some casters get pluses or an extra dice if you're like
yeah.
a super powerful one.
I think one thing that's interesting about this is the fireball spell is battle magic, but the vortex is demonology. So I don't know what the previous Tomb King spell that we saw was.
Uh, was that
Let
on
me
the?
go back.
That was in a
That was
different
a
article, right?
strategy
That was like
phase, I think.
movement or yeah, strategy.
Oh, so that means it's in the movement phase.
So there's an enchantment for the lore of Nehekara.
Yeah.
Enchantment 7+ for that one, and then I'm gonna click on the movement phase just to see if there's anything else in there.
Fireball. I do like how they're doing. I'm curious. I want to see how this magic is going to work. So I'm excited. That's all I can say. I'm just excited.
Yeah, I just wonder if they're going to consolidate a bunch of lores of magic, right? Instead of the 8 winds of magic, we're going to have, whatever, battle magic, demonology.
Like
Um,
instead of your 8 empire schools, you kind of just get battle magic.
Correct.
I'm sure you can pick some spells. I'm hoping you can pick some spells inside battle magic that kind of suit what you're looking to do with your army.
Right.
Um,
So other than that, the shooting phase seems pretty basically the same from previous editions. They just added the magic component into it. Armor seems basically the same. To hit the same. To wound the same. Taking casualties is probably the same. So on to the fight phase,
I
combat
guess
phase.
it's just you get to shoot in the front rank, I think, only now. It's
Oh
kind of
yeah,
the
shoot, I missed that part.
probably
Good
the
point.
biggest change.
did I miss that? 'Cause
And that's back to 6th and 7th edition. Because in 8th edition you could shoot in 2 ranks. I should have talked.
The classic hill in every deployment zone is coming
Oh, yeah,
back.
here it is. So yeah, that's a good point. You can only shoot once, no matter how many attacks they have on their profile, unless they have volley fire. Stationed on a hill, and they can only fire in the front rank. So, in
Okay, I
go
missed
ahead.
that last sentence. Okay.
So in older editions, if you were on a hill, you could shoot in two ranks. So a lot of people, if you're on the ground and you have a unit of 10, well, then you're 10 wide and 1 deep. But if you're on a hill, you could be 5 by 2, and then either way, everyone could shoot.
Now in eighth edition, I know in WAP volley is -1, but
Hmm.
is was eighth edition also -1 for volley fire, or did you just if you had the rule you could shoot in two
Yeah.
ranks?
Yeah, it was. Actually, it's been a while. I'm getting editions confused. I think
Yeah.
volley fire was if you stayed still, everyone could shoot. You're just at -1. Chat, help me out.
Yeah,
Help
that's
me out.
definitely something that I'd have to dig up my old Wood Elf books in my closet back here to see what's
Yeah.
going on.
Okay, so I think that's it for shooting. That seems pretty. You can stack blah blah blah. Toughness 9. That makes sense to me. Okay.
It's got to the magic users. They can't generate dice and then have to ration them out because there's spells and strategic phase, probably movement phase, shooting phase, combat phase. So it sounds what I'm getting by reading all this is every time you want to use a spell, you just get a free 2 dice and you just throw it at it
You think
and see
so?
if um I'd throw a 20 on it, like
Okay, okay, okay.
I don't know why I'm just getting that vibe. It's just like you just get 2 dice to throw at it.
But there are some spells that are going to be like take a 10. Like that's like such high risk to get it off. High risk, high reward kind of stuff. It's like
when I see, yeah,
you'd have to play your game as if you're not going to get it. Because that's a 10 on 2 dice is very low. What's the chance to get that? Um, was it a 7 is like 16%? So then it's
1 in
like a
6.
yeah, like that's not good odds to get a 10. But who knows? Uh, Likely no minus. Yeah, probably.
Doing math on stream.
Math on stream, baby. Okay, so onto the combat phase with his classic art. I love it. Uh,
This is,
this is what?
I was gonna say this is the best art.
What for the Empire? Get out of here.
No, no, just in general, the old school like
I agree.
uh
These are
flood art.
the pieces of art that I could look at legitimately for like half an hour and even more, and just literally pick out every little thing, just like every little soldier, like all these soldiers way in the back over here, just trying to see how much detail they did. I used to always love doing that, going through the army books.
so that's how I got into the game with my friends in elementary school. Is we had like a couple white dwarfs and we had like some army books and stuff like that. And I remember we would look at this stuff and draw it, trace it, that kind of stuff. And this
That's
is
cool.
literally how we got into it. We were sitting in elementary school, bored out of our minds.
Hypnotized by
Yeah.
cool looking goblins and rawr.
Mhm.
I love that stuff. Okay, so combat. 4 steps. Choose and fight, calculate result, break test, and pursuit. As with the shooting phase, blah, blah, blah. General happens first rank. So this is where there's some controversy and some theorizing going on. How this sentence right here. However, a unit with a wider fighting rank than its opponent can still attack with every model in the rank. Your troops surround and envelop the other regiment. So, unless they give us more details, that is just telling us that if you are 10 wide and you're fighting someone who is 5 wide, all 10 of your guys get to attack. So that
But only one attack, I think, was the caveat.
you mean like one attack from the guys not in base?
Yeah, I think that was in there. That
No.
was like their.
So look at the next sentence. It says some models may make supporting attacks from a deeper rank, but it
Mhm.
doesn't say that it doesn't apply to if you're just in the front rank. So if I'm 100 wide, I'm covering the entire board, and let's say I'm only 1 deep. Let's say I'm Skaven Slaves, because that's the cheapest basically way to do that. I'm 100 wide and only 1 deep, which by their movement rules is totally legal. And you charge 5 Empire Spearmen into me, and you're only 5, or let's say 25, and you're 5 wide. All 100 of my Skaven Slaves can attack you. Like they're like 30 inches over here and 30 inches over here, and they can attack you. So hopefully there is something hidden deeper in the rules that because they obviously can't divulge everything on like a 1 or 2 page article that limits you from doing that, because that seems very abusive. Yeah.
Read the last sentence of right above that goblin holding that sword with the funky red hat.
Oh, and any model that is able to fight without being in base contact may only make 1 attack per turn. Okay, Zach, fine.
So
Just
so
point me
that
to the right spot.
Who reads?
Who reads?
no, well, so that's the thing is like I was like so down about when I read this. I was like, so you're just gonna put a bunch of monstrous infantry or spread it wide like you're saying, and they're just gonna clobber anything that touches that gigantic unit.
Well,
But
most
they only
models
get
only
one
have
attack.
most models only have 1 attack. So
Yeah, I
you don't
mean,
really
even
lose
high up
anything.
spearmen,
Yeah,
right?
I guess if you got a bunch of levies or peasants,
Hmm.
like, but when you look at some of the more, I'm gonna call them like high point costed armies, right?
Hmm.
That can frenzy, devastating charge, stack up all the attacks. That's gonna be a tough sell to stretch your army wide because you're like, I'm not really getting
Agreed.
too much out of it. But I can see those, state troop halberdiers stretching from east to west over there.
Okay, so that Jonesy, anything to comment on that one?
Yeah, I mean, just as Zach was saying, if it's just 1 attack, I mean, there's plenty of armies that can still take full advantage of 1 attack. I mean, just thinking cavalry, like from an Empire player's perspective, just Empire Knights going like 10 wide with a warrior priest, um, high up spearmen, just things that can just get a lot of attacks really easily.
And now,
I
would
mean,
the if the warrior priest still gives hatred to the models that aren't in base, I assume they'd still get hatred too. So
Yeah,
yeah,
that would
yeah.
be my imagination.
yeah,
So
there's
all those trash attacks become a whole lot more lethal when your flammable hatred.
Yeah, prayer.
Oh, guys, so the most recent battle report that was just filmed, it's between these two guys, and they fought over the Nova Open General Best General Trophy. We're not going to give any spoilers, but I will put it up either tomorrow or Thursday, or maybe not Thursday because that's Thanksgiving. But I will try and put it up tomorrow. I'll put it up tomorrow so you can watch them. It was a very good game.
Oh, it's a good one.
Definitely give it a watch. Okay, so weapon skill is back. It seems you can never hit on 6s unless you probably have something that stacks like a -1 to hit, which I'm sure, like the glittering scales, that was always a big thing. But even if you're weapon skill 1, you can hit weapon skill 10, and you're only hitting on 5s. But everything else, you can hit on 2s now, which is from WAP as well, which is nice.
It looks like they stuck with that double +1 gets you to the next level, but they
Yeah.
didn't do the triple +1 to get you to that, you know, highest level. So
Yeah.
I do like the double +1 breakpoint. That seems to be pretty nice and it's streamlined. Because you were like, I'm always hitting on 4s or 3s if I'm doing better than the other opponent.
I
Double
agree.
+1, yeah, we'll go down.
I agree, Jimmy. That would at least be something. So you can't do what we were talking about because it seems too abusive. So something limiting of that regard would be great. Come on, chat. Any suggestions? If we're missing anything, please let us know because like we're here, you're here. Talk to us. Uh, bounce ideas off. We love that stuff.
I do like the change, because I don't know what I think was WAP the first one to start the, like needing a 5+ or 6+ to hit.
6+, definitely. 5+, that
That was
was
GW.
yeah, that was in eighth, I
Mhm.
believe.
Okay.
It was
But I
double
do
plus
like that
one.
change just because it does reward those high weapon skill armies, high weapon skill characters, being able to have a little bit more consistency
Yeah. So if your weapon skill
overall.
is 7 versus weapon skill 3, like you hit them on 3s in 8th edition, but you get hit on 5s. But in WAP it would be 2s and
Twos.
2s and 5s. And now here it's 2s and 5s. Correct?
Mhm.
7. Yeah, 7. Okay.
Mhm.
Which is cool. Like, I'm really glad they added this chart back. Somehow, this is very confusing for a lot of players, but it's very easy. If I'm attacking you and my weapon skill is higher, I hit on 3s. If I'm double +1, I hit on 2s. That's that simple. And it's the
Mhm.
same if you're swinging at me. It goes the same way. If my weapon skill is lower than yours, I hit on 4s. If it's double +1, I I hit on 5s
Yep.
always, and this was all 40K, mostly back in the day, older editions and fantasy. So it only takes a few minutes to memorize, maybe longer, but a few practice games, and you should have it down pat pretty quickly.
If if your army is generally a higher weapon skill army, when you're attacking, you're generally going to be hitting on threes.
Yeah.
And if you're a lower weapon skill army, you're generally hitting on fours. That's kind of just how it usually goes.
Goatman, is that in this article? So strength of the weapon no longer has a negative modifier to the armor save. The weapon have their own AP or special rule. Did they ever talk about strength?
Did we see weapons in here?
Well, I'm just curious. Strength 4, that's still -1 of the armor save, right? Or did they
Well,
get rid of that?
they didn't say that yet, I guess. We're just always making that assumption. We're kind of like, hey.
That's fair. That's fair.
Well,
We have
so
been
you know
assuming
what?
that.
That's why that armor bane 1 on some of those longbows might make sense, because it's like, hey, you're still strength 3 for a peasant, so you're wounding kind of in that chart, but you're a little bit easier to get through the armor. That hammer hand is probably what I'm looking at inside that combat phase. Battle magic hammer hand. Skipping ahead a little bit, this might clear it up.
He said it was in shooting, so let me see if I can find that.
Oh.
Strength 4, AP 1. There's a separate AP stat for everything. Is there? I missed that.
While you're looking, I'll just talk. So
Yeah, please.
the hammer hand basically is like a in combat type ability, like a Shield of Thorns or something, where it affects a unit in combat. They suffer 2d6 strength 4 hits, each with an AP of 2. So when I saw that, I'm like, oh man, this is like an AP 3 melee attack. Like that's critical for a lot of armies. But then I'm thinking, if that strength 4 doesn't actually imply AP 1, that AP 2 makes sense. So
Okay.
that's a good pickup, because I looked at this and I'm like, this melee magic is going to be out of hand.
Okay. Good call out, Goatman. Good call
Yeah.
out. I like that, because then you never have to figure out, oh, I'm strength 3, 4, 5. It's just -1. It's basically only the weapon type. I like that. Okay. I think they took that from 40K. Especially, yeah, basically that's from 40K. You could be strength 20, but you could only be AP 1 or 2, depending on like what kind, like if shooting plasma, if you're shooting a bolt, or just a orc choppa or something. So I like that. Okay, so casualties. Bye, Jonesy. I don't know where he went, but bye, video.
I was gonna say, it's got to streamline it though, right? Because like there's no more. It's just like you're only worried about the strength when we're looking at the toughness. We're not worried about strength at all when we're talking about armor pens.
So
I gotta imagine that strength plays some level into it, but
might just make it easier to wound, which
Yeah.
obviously it does. But so casualties are still removed from the back ranks. So there still is a step up rule, which is great, because I was not a huge fan of that in 6th or 7th edition, where the charge was everything. If you get the charge and you don't have like a character in there, then you just lose like 3 or 4 dudes, and depending on who you're getting it swung at by, and then you just basically you can't swing back with anything other than a champion if you paid for one, and then you just lose combat. It was very unforgiving. So Jonesy played a lot of 7th edition. If you have any comment there.
yeah, I mean 7th edition in my mind is a very punishing system. Don't right, wrong, or indifferent about it. It was just very, very punishing, and getting that charge off and not having characters in your units really affected just overall ability to generate that combat res.
Ken. Okay, I don't know if you two can see the chat, but this monster named Ken just said, I used units of 24 Wolf Riders in a single rank. So he would run 24 freaking Wolf Riders. That's amazing. Single rank units would be terrible. Blah, blah, blah. That's gnarly, man. I'd love to see that on a table just to see how that did. Holy cow.
So probably that's a screener unit is what I'm thinking, because everybody else behind it gets that cover.
Yeah.
But what he's saying is like anything that touches it gets a lot of good combat res.
Right.
Is there a charge bonus in the combat results? Because I didn't see it.
So I have the table up right now.
Saw the flank attack, rear attack. I didn't see the charge bonus anymore.
Sorry, I'll be right back.
Yeah, that's okay. So we have unsaved wounds. We have rank bonus, +1 per rank, +1 point. So in
No maximum on that either.
For which one?
The rank bonus. It
Also
used to be
true.
capped at 3, right?
Mm-hmm. Uh,
Escaping.
yes, that was capped at 3. Now they still might put that. I assume this combat results score table is not the final thing.
Sure,
It's
sure.
right. I hope that you get +1 per standard. I hope you get +1 per unit charged. Um, because that's a wave. Like if you're getting charged by 2 units of 25, it's a lot more weight coming at you than just just one of those units,
Mhm.
even if you don't kill anything. Overkill, it doesn't say max of, I think it was 4 or 5 in 8th edition. In WAP, it's 3.
3, I think,
Yeah,
yeah.
3.
But so yeah, like, it has like a lot of that high ground, flank, rear stuff. I noticed that
That's
you
good.
don't get the +1 for charge. And when
Mm-hmm.
we get to that fall back versus pursuing type thing, it says like it counts as a charge. So like you don't get that +1 maybe recurring charge bonus for that combat res, but
Right.
maybe you get the strength bonuses from your weapon, or because we haven't seen any weapons yet. We haven't seen any spears, any
Sure.
great weapons or something like that with like strength bonus or something like that only applicable on the charges. So that'll be interesting to see is how that armory kind of shakes out.
Mm-hmm. And Jimmy, you're talking about what's it called? That marching formation where you get to like triple move or something. You can't bus, right? But you could be 8 by 8. I mean, that's only 64 like slaves, and that's probably less than 200 points, and you could have like +8 to combat res from ranks. But who knows? Who knows?
I still always tell the story of the zombies that are able to break the tree man because if you flubs the stomp, flubs his attacks, flubs the stomp, the zombies have all the rank bonuses
Yeah,
and you fail your stubborn check and you just get run run down
it's
by
the worst.
some zombies.
Well, hopefully now, based on some of the rules that we're coming up to, it's a little different.
Hmm.
You might not auto just run away and die. So,
Right. Yeah, you want to flip over to that
hey,
one
Jonesy,
because
welcome back,
Hey,
buddy.
sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's totally fine. Don't worry. Okay, so if you're looking at this, who wants to talk about break tests? One of y'all go.
I think it's really interesting what they're doing with the break test. It's definitely a nice change because it helps those more favors those high leadership armies. Now you no longer lose combat by 1 to maybe to some type of horde style army or horde unit. Lose, fail the leadership check, and now you potentially can lose your entire unit out of nowhere just because of some bad dice rolling.
hmm
But at least this gives a little bit of better chance for those high leadership armies to kind of hold whatever these means, fall back and go to order or give ground, whatever those mean. It seems like there's a chance that those units don't just completely get wiped off.
Y'all want to theorize what those mean?
I would think give ground is something along the lines of like D 3 inches back versus fall back and good order might be, able to disengage, but then still face the unit. If I had to take a wild stab at it, but that's kind of
That reminds me a lot of there are some third edition rules where if you lose combat, you just get pushed back and then they follow up, and it's just like you're just taking ground as it obviously gives ground. So you're losing. It's like a shield wall kind of thing. Your
Yeah,
shield wall is just getting
you're pushing against them, but interesting piece is it doesn't count as you're never like really breaking the combat and re-engaging. You're just glued together, kind of forcing your will, taking up more space on the battlefield by pushing them forward when you win. Um, and then you kind of move down that chart, right, to that. All right, your dice didn't make you run, or you didn't pass, you didn't fail. You kind of are in that gray area, right,
mm-hmm.
where hey, I would have passed on my normal leadership, but on the modified leadership of me losing, I failed that one. That one's the interesting piece where it looks like they're going to fall back in good order, but then the enemy can pursue and re-engage with a new charge.
Right. Yeah, see, I like this. So if you're
Mm-hmm.
leadership 8 and you lose by 5, or sorry, you lose by 3. So I like how they said this game's going to be like, some people were saying, oh, it's not going to be very complicated. This seems a little complicated. Obviously, it's not too bad, but it's definitely not, current 40K in terms of leadership and stuff. So I like this. So if you're leadership 8, you lose by 3. I don't know what the chart actually is supposed to be in terms. So if I'm leadership 9 and I lose by 3, does this first one just go up to 6,
Yeah, yeah,
or
yeah.
is that what it is? Okay.
So it's like if you would have passed on your unmod, like I'm just gonna throw out my army, right? Like my general's in the army leadership 9.
Okay.
If I would have passed on my dice that I roll, if I would have passed on my 9, we're kind of in that fallback in good order. But I failed on the your halberdiers whooped the crap out of my guys. So we did lose combat. We lost, on this modified roll.
So
But
what I'm asking is it just, are the charts breaking down evenly? So let's say your leadership 9. So then the bottom 3, is it just 10, 11, 12 is break and flee, and then fallback order is 6, 7, 8, 9? Or does
based
like, you know
on
what I
that
mean?
leadership, right? So like if you have a leadership 9 army, it's going to move down just a little bit. Leadership 8 is what empire right around there. So this is kind of like
7.
a
7.
okay, I'm sorry.
So,
Yeah.
so I think the gray area in this case, the fallback and go to order, is based on how much you lose combat by. As you lose more and more, losing more and more in combat, that area gets bigger.
Okay, so if you, let's say this unit, let's say these high elves lost by 5. So does that mean the break and flee? It's only 4 though.
Well, the break and flee still stays the same no matter what, based
Only
on the
above your
leadership of the
leadership.
unit.
So if you lose by 5, then a 4 through 8 is fallback in good order.
Yes. So there's going to be a lot less. I'm just killing your unit by running it down.
Thank
And there's
goodness.
going to be a lot
Please.
more you fall back in good order. And I can choose to reform my unit, or I can choose to re-engage you with a fresh charge.
Okay, so that makes total sense. Anything above your normal leadership value, you break and flee. Anything less than that, but within the modified roll or modified however much you lost by, is automatically fall back in good order. And anything lower than what you lost combat by is give ground.
This
That's gonna
does
be
not
fun. It's gonna be
this
fun.
does not help me not fail stubborn checks on my 8s and 9s. You know what I mean? Like this doesn't fix
Yes.
my problem.
Well, be better. Just roll
I'm
better
just saying,
dice, bro.
like
Easy.
that's still I still break and flee when the dice are really really bad. But
Harvey says it's just like War Master. Okay, that's cool.
okay,
Love
it,
it.
it it doesn't fix the dice if they just suck. If the dice are right in that middle gray area, right where I would have been good if I didn't lose combat so bad. If I didn't whiff all my attacks and get
Mhm.
combat res, um, I would have been in that gray area and been fine. So this kind of, I feel like, mellows it out a little bit where I'm not just going to lose my unit for free, basically, if your dice just roll all ones.
Okay, so
Um,
run them down. When you win combat, you have a range of choices: restrain, follow up, or pursue. So I assume pursue is if they flee. Follow up is if they gave ground. You re-enter the combat a few inches forward. I wonder if you give ground, you move instead of just maybe it's your movement backwards, or half your movement backwards.
mhm.
Restrain is pass a leadership test to avoid pursuit and instead reform your ranks for free.
It'd be interesting if they made it strength based. So like whatever the strength of the pushing unit is, that's how many inches you go back. So if you have like
Oh,
a
that'd be
strength
cool.
5 unit, it's like boom, we're just pushing you back 5 inches.
I kind of like that.
And then you got
Now,
like rank bonuses to add on to that.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
push your unit back like 12 inches out
Like a
of
good
nowhere.
scrum.
or what about if you have a lance too? Then you get +2 strength that adds on top of it.
Stuff like that would keep it fresh and interesting instead of just okay, we go back 2 inches.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, overrun. Just like it used to be. So in 8th edition and in current WoP, if you win combat and they're either running away or you just totally wipe them out, you could just run 2d6 forward. What does this say? Can make a full move directly forward. Interesting. So that's not
No march. Yeah.
no
Just
march. Look at that. Clever use of overruns will have heavy cavalry licking its lips. I don't know why they said that, but okay.
Is it the horses licking their lips?
Or that, yeah. No, it's the horses licking their riders' lips.
Oh. Oh.
it's got to be with that kind of cascading combat kind of thing again. Like if you have a combat, 8 inches back behind the line, they can kind of push into it.
I do wonder, because the way they talked about this combat phase in general, like if you overrun into a unit that's not engaged already, do you get to fight that combat?
Oh, you mean
that
okay?
turn.
So in Eighth Edition and in WAP, you wouldn't. You would fight it the next turn unless that unit was still engaged in combat from another unit that you had and hasn't fought yet.
Hmm.
So will it do the same thing here? Well, I don't
Eighth
know.
and WAP all had it. I'm wondering if there's
Yeah.
an interesting way to do that because you can kind of push them backwards with your
Mm,
front guys, and then maybe you hit an overrun, and now we're got those guys. The cavalry
interesting.
is in combat, so
Hmm.
Yeah,
interesting.
yeah, you talked about that. That makes it interesting too. What happens if you have there's like another unit behind the unit you're pushing? What happens?
Yeah.
Mm.
What depend? You mean an allied unit of the? So if the unit that
Either.
got pushed back and it hits an ally unit, maybe it's like you take some hits like damage, like the, I think there was wind blast. Like if you get pushed into your own unit, they both take hits or
Impassable.
something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay.
Or maybe they take a break check because they're obviously getting like shoved. They're getting sandwiched.
Yeah.
Um, okay.
Rear attacks are going to be interesting in this one because you could then push them forward towards your own army,
Yeah.
and you're kind of just scooting them in.
Yeah. That's a good point.
Ambushers will be interesting
Giving
because if
giving
you
a
get
little
some,
hug. Just a little
yeah,
group hug.
if you can ambush something in the back line, start pushing the enemy forward.
Me too,
Eh,
Ken. This is going to be sweet. I'm really looking forward to this edition. Like, there's still plenty that there could be some bad things that we're not that they
Oh
haven't
yeah.
shown us yet. Like, there could be some feel bads moments where it's like this doesn't make sense. It shouldn't work like that. Or when I say shouldn't, I mean it's not like it just feels bad. Like Jones and I were talking about on the way back from the Game Garrison tournament where in 8th edition and at the start of WAP. So if I have a unit here and you have a unit here and you flee and I have another unit over here that you flee through, it's just dangerous terrain. And on a 1, you take a wound with no armor save, which is like if 20 guys fall through a brick of 30 and let's say you fail like three guys just die, it's not as good in terms of how they do WAP now, where it's every model that's being fled through, you take 1 unit strength wound at no armor save. So that unit of 20 just fled through a unit of 30. That unit of 20 just got chopped to pieces because there's 30 dudes just hacking at you for free and you just died. So, and that is more viable than just you take nothing because then it's advantage to you purposely flee through enemy stuff to like because then you rally and survive and then you could just rally and charge again. But okay, next
You know
Hammerhand.
my you know my pessimism with Old World, where I'm just like I'm expecting almost nothing, and if I see some good stuff, I'm like, awesome, that's
Yep.
cool. But I'm expecting the game to just be awful, fall flat. No expectations. But I'm
What
actually
do you mean no expectations? You just said you want it to fall flat, or you
no, I
thinking
didn't. Not that I
you're
wanted
thinking
to.
it's going to fall
No.
flat.
So seeing the shooting,
Hmm.
I'm completely like check mark, a-okay, everything looks as it should be
Cool.
from a balance standpoint with the strength and all that stuff. Okay,
Hmm.
cool, we'll work with it. The combat, that rank one rank super wide could be a little bit of an issue here,
Hmm.
but I'm liking what I'm seeing with the kind of breaking piece, and that seems like it's good. The magic phase with the dice is a little bit iffy. We'll see how that shakes out, but I mean this is promising. I'm cautiously getting optimistic instead of
Yeah.
the other side of
Let's
things.
go. Ah!
Also, Hammerhand, we kind of talked about this a little bit earlier with strength 4 AP2. So I'm like, there's no way they're giving you a casting 7 plus AP3
Yeah.
2D3. Oh, it's 2D3, so it's not like a ton of hits. But
Yeah, I agree.
seems like a lot of AP there
Hmm.
for something like that.
And it's not bad too. Like 2d3 strength 4, that's an average of 4 hits. Strength 4, you're mostly going to wound most half the armies on 4s, half on 3s. So you get like 2 wounds through, and you could easily kill a guy. Like probably kill 2 guys.
I'm thinking of what would you do in combat with like some 1-up knights or 2-up knights? Like,
You don't cast that spell.
well,
Just
AP3.
kidding. AP3's.
Just
I would save the dice. Now it depends if it's based on what you said earlier. So if you have multiple wizards, they can each do every spell. Then yeah, just roll for it every freaking time. Why not? Like AP2 against 1-up save or 2-up save because they didn't mention full plate. Yeah, that'll kill some dudes. Um,
Mhm.
I appreciate it.
So this still makes me wonder about what we talked about last time with regards of are characters in units or are they kind of, more or less attachments to units? And can those, when they're kind of attachments to units, can they be singled out, right? Because this spell only works when the caster is engaged in combat. So
I think I saw in here that because it was talk when I was talking about the leadership, I think it talked about the character being in the unit.
Well, if for somehow they don't have a character in a unit, like if a warrior priest doesn't join a unit of halberdiers or greatswords, that would freak me out. That would be very unusual for Warhammer Fantasy for the model to just like how they have in 40k, where their characters are no longer attached. They just walk beside. No, that's not true. That was ninth edition. They're in units now. Ignore me, guys. Sorry, that's 40k ninth edition. 40k ninth edition is what I was like. It was weird because you could charge a unit in, you could charge a character in a unit in, but if let's say your character made it and your unit failed, your character just charged the unit by itself and is about to get about to get slapped silly. Or the opposite, your unit made it and you need that character's extra hits, so you have to be able to go into a unit. That would just be weird.
I think we're gonna probably find out a little bit more on that next article that's got where is it?
psychology.
Morale breaking psychology, because that'll probably tied with the generals and your leadership.
Inspiring
So we'll
presence
probably
and all that cool stuff.
yeah, we'll get a little bit more piece on there.
Yeah, Ken.
Wizards can use assailment spells while units fighting from behind a barricade or wall get extra protection. I missed that. Okay, good. So they are keeping that like you're defending a wall, defending a barricade,
right here.
type stuff. Okay.
Which is good because barricades in WAP we're way too good, and I had to point out that that means if you get charged and you're behind a barricade, the opponent basically loses. They lose all their charge bonus. They lose all impact hits. They're -1 to hit their opponent. All sorts of shenanigans. All right, so what's Soul Eater? Someone read me Soul Eater. Jonesy, what's Soul Eater go? Go.
It's a dark magic spell. No. So it says it's a casting value 7, range combat. A single enemy model the caster is engaged in combat with suffers a single strength 3 hit with multiple wounds 3, special rule, with no armor saves permitted. Ward and regeneration saves can be attempted as normal. And that seems like a pretty cool assassination spell, right?
Strength
Just get your
3 seems
mage.
kind of weak.
Strength 3, but
If you're
I mean-
rolling it every turn that you're in combat, just like I'm saying, like if you're just fishing for it to work, I mean,
just cast it against elves. It works.
Yeah. Elves or humans, go.
I actually saw what I was looking at earlier about the leader characters and units.
Okay.
I'm just gonna read the whole thingy. So if the natural roll is higher than the leadership stat of the testing unit's leader, either that of its champion or a hero model that's joined it. So it has that in there. So
Cool.
it sounds like hero models are able to now join those units.
Yeah, that'd be freaky.
But I guess its champions might have higher leadership than regular folks in there because they specifically said champions. So that could
Yeah.
be a thing too.
So Blues are going to finally pay for champions now.
Hey, I used to, but since they can't challenge in WAP anymore, I almost never take it. It doesn't seem really worth 10 points to do it. So,
Yeah,
They
who
usually
needs to
n-
restrain from combat and
Yeah.
be able to re-roll that?
go baby, go. I mean, if you win combat and you don't restrain, you still won combat. So hopefully you killed something. So, who knows? Next is morale and psychology. As Zach said, I'm looking forward to this. I'm cautiously optimistic as well. But as other people have said in the chat, I am definitely looking like everything's looking like a plus at the moment. No AP or no AP based on the strength. I'm okay with that as long as they give it to all the weapons. The magic every phase is going to be interesting. I really want to see how that develops. I'm looking forward to seeing what's next. Morale and psychology, fear, terror, hatred, because fear, terror, all that stuff was very different throughout the editions. Like 6th and 7th, it was massive. 8th, it was basically nothing. WAP, it's in between nothing and massive. So I'm curious what they're going to do. I think Jonesy, you and I said this is basically 7.5 edition minus like the magic stuff, but it seems like it's coming to that.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it would be interesting if we pulled out kind of what we are our patchworked 7.5 that we made back, I don't know, like 5-10 years ago at this point. Kind of when 8th edition was still around.
So what did we do? Tell them what we did.
Oh, so yeah, we just basically um in our kind of a close friend group just wanted to didn't necessarily love 8th edition, kind of like 7th edition, how things were played in 7th edition. So we kind of made this our own edition just to play it out. And we took some cool things that 8th edition brought on, like, BSBs, musicians, um, and some other pieces that we thought were really cool and interesting and kind of advanced the game, made more units or characters viable and kind of made our own what we called 7.5, where it was a lot of 7th edition focused with some extra rules added on for those like BSBs and musicians.
And reform, right? I think we kind of cleaned up like it's like what seventh did for sixth, we did for seventh using eighth stuff, right?
Yeah, I think that would be generally it. It's hard to go back on the memory of that,
It's been a
remember
while.
everything. Yeah.
It's been a while.
So one thing that I missed in here that I'm really wanting to see is I
Tell
guess
me.
war machines are kind of with the Screaming Skull catapult they talked about a little bit, but they didn't talk
Okay.
about cannons. And
Mm.
there's obviously a lot of hate for cannons in 8th edition because they were basically just these giant sniper rifles that could kill just about anything. And then in WAP, they're not really that great. I don't think I've had a cannon actually kill any of the big stuff I've ever really run. Whether that's luck or not, I'm not sure. But I feel like cannons kind of dictate a lot of what you can safely put on the board.
Hmm.
If cannons are super good, you're not really wanting to put a lot of big monsters that are cool and fun. Um, like
They have
this,
to find a middle ground. They
yeah.
have to. Uh,
I got
Maybe just have cannons. You could still do a laser with them, right? But then Lookout Sir automatically gets passed. But then if it's against a monster, it's always D3 wounds. You could just always make it D3 wounds, and then no monster will ever get instantly killed. Like you could still snipe, but then have it always do D3. And I think that would be some kind of middle ground. I just don't. What do y'all
mhm.
think? Is that a good, fair middle
So
ground?
Screaming Skull is Tomb Kings, if I'm not mistaken.
Yep.
Is this stat line pretty similar to what you're used to in eighth or WAP for this, where
The center hole used to
strength is
be D6
bigger, right?
wounds. It was
Okay,
D6 wounds.
so um, it goes from -1 AP to -3 D3 plus one wounds.
The AP has gone down, right? Because
Yeah,
if you were strength 8 in 8th edition, that's -4. 4, 5,
right.
6, 7, 8, or 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Sorry, that's -5. So you basically don't get an armor save. Now it's AP 3. If you have a 1 up, 2 up, 3 up, you're gonna, if you have a 3 up save, you're going to have a 6 up armor. Um, so it seems like shooting, I don't know if shooting gets nerfed a little bit here in this edition or if it's going to stick to the same.
Mhm.
Um,
Just from what armies can field, right? So like we've had this conversation where I never got to run a tree man or a dragon, forest dragon in
sure.
eighth edition because cannons would just knock it off the board. Flaming cannons, especially knocking
Sure.
it right off the board.
Hmm.
Even like Terror Geist and stuff like that, you couldn't run any of the big fun stuff. Now all of a sudden in WAP you see there's every army's got at least a giant centerpiece that they're
Yeah,
able
which
to
is
run per yeah.
that's freaking awesome. Like every army should have
Mhm.
like could be able to bring one monster.
Mhm. So just from what you can effectively kind of field without feeling bad, I'm interested to see how the cannons play out because that's usually a big gripe from for some people is
Huge gripe.
yeah.
Cannons were one of the worst things about eighth because I think
How were they
Empire
in
could run,
seventh?
but seventh was guess range, so you still had to
Oh yeah,
guess.
Mhm.
sorry.
So you still
Yeah.
had to guess. No pre-measuring, but there isn't in this edition, which is fine. Some people don't like that. Some people like sixth, seventh, no pre-measure. But I think for overall advantage, for it to be fair and balanced across everyone, pre-measuring should be a thing because some people have just played the game for 20 years, so they know exactly the measurements of like or the distances what they need, or they are in certain skilled based labor where it's like if you're a carpenter, like or any kind most manual labor, you're gonna know what the distance is, and you're just gonna crush your opponent. You're guess perfectly. Um, yeah, I agree. I think cannons will. That's a. Hopefully, they're working on that and play testing the crap out of it to figure out. But I assume even if they just make it D3 plus one, D3 plus one wounds. Almost all monsters are at least 5 wounds, so you will never just insta kill a monster.
Are there magical vortexes in WAP? Or is that one of the things they kind of got rid of?
No, they have them. It's just they're almost never used nowadays because all the other spells are so good. Um,
Okay. I
Most
do
people
see
don't
here
run 'em.
we do have magical vortexes, like obviously the vortex of chaos. So we might see a comeback of you know, fun spells.
Well, I know, Jonesy, you were talking about templates, how you're actually not super happy templates are back. Can you explain, go into that?
Cor- Correct. I think it just slows down gameplay tremendously having any type of templates in the game, whether that be flame template, small blast, or large blast. The because no matter what, you're always circling and everyone, based on the angle that you're standing at compared to the 6 foot by 4 foot table you're at, you can see certain models are under the template versus your opponent.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden it just creates this weird thing. I would say the only one that's never has a discrepancy is, the center hit with a small round blast template because everyone has that little image in the book and everyone's like,
Hmm.
yep, that's 21 hits because the book told me so, right?
Right.
There's no questions there, but I think it is a little bit of a missed opportunity. I'm not you know, super upset about it. And I understand the point of it at times, right? Where you're trying to hit a catapult, right? You know, how do you,
Just
how
say
do you
auto
gameplay for
does
like a catapult trying to hit a single
2d6 hits.
target, right?
Sure.
Yeah, you're
Sure.
trying to hit a single target and trying to balance out the effects of the catapult versus what is actually happening on the table, right? With the
Hmm.
ability to scatter.
Right.
Um,
I love template attacks. My armies don't have any, so I just love seeing them as long as they don't actually hit.
Wait, what else? Yeah, you're right. You don't really have any. You have a
No.
breath weapon from a forest dragon, but there's no artillery. Wait, no. One of the sisters, she shoots. Isn't hers like a strength 3 blast? Look
You know
at
what?
his face.
That could be a WAP thing because in eighth she didn't have
Uh,
a blast. She
really?
had like it was a big strong shot, or she had like a 2d6 like small poison shots.
Okay, then it's
But it could
definitely
be
just a
could be a
WAP
WAP
thing.
thing.
That's
Could be a
definitely a
WAP
WAP
thing.
thing. Okay. Uh,
Um,
I think that's it, guys. I think we covered basically the entire shooting article and the entire fight phase article, or combat phase, whatever they call it now. So next, I think waiting for 2 articles is a good way to do it. So we have plenty of content. We can just chum it up a little bit. So next is morale and psychology. I don't see one in gray after that, so I'm not sure what's coming next after that one. But hopefully by that point they'll have a box ready for us. Maybe they'll preview some boxes. Don't know. Um, Looking for early Q1 2024. So I'm hoping by March at the latest they at least put out some rules. And thanks guys for joining. Thanks for being here. Like, subscribe, all that BS. Thanks guys. Take care. Oh, and I'll put that battle report up probably tomorrow. So
oh yeah,
keep an eye
that's
out for
right.
that.
Watch the battle report.
that's good fun.
Battle. All right. Bye guys.